welcome to another deep dive. So I was thinking about how we always see these superheroes, these larger-than-life figures. But what if we could actually learn from their struggles? Especially when it comes to fear, right?
Yeah, and I think some of the most interesting superheroes, the ones that we connect with, are the ones who feel really human, right? The ones who are dealing with real emotions, real challenges, just like we are.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. The psychology of Batman.
Oh, interesting.
We're going to be unpacking this article called The Psychology of Superheroes, what Batman teaches us about fear and resilience.
Okay, yeah, that's gonna be good.
Because Batman, let's be real, he's no Superman. No superpowers, just some really, really cool gadgets and like an insane amount of willpower.
Right.
And the article really gets into how his origin story, that whole thing about seeing his parents murdered as a child.
Oh, yeah.
It really shapes his whole view on fear.
Yeah, and that's such a critical point because, like you said, we all experience fear, but trauma, especially in childhood, can really have a huge impact on how we respond to it, how we process it.
Yeah, and it's not like he just shrugs it off and becomes, carefree billionaire playboy.
Yeah.
The article actually talks about how experiences like that can lead to PTSD, depression, anxiety.
Absolutely, and it manifests in different ways for different people, but what's interesting about Batman is that he seems to embody this idea of post-traumatic growth, right?
Yeah.
He takes that pain, that fear, and he uses it as this motivator to become a symbol of hope, right? The symbol of hope in Gotham, which you don't see every day.
It's like he's staring fear right in the face and saying, not today. And he even takes it a step further with the whole bat symbol thing.
Right.
The article talks about how he's taking this thing that people are afraid of
Right.
and making it his own.
It's brilliant when you think about it because he's confronting his fear by becoming the very thing that he was afraid of as a child. Almost like a reminder, right, of what he overcame and the strength that he found in doing that.
So how does this superpowered therapy work? Because it sounds a lot like exposure therapy, which I know is part of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. So where does a guy dressed like a bat fit into all of this?
That's a great observation because exposure therapy is all about gradually confronting your fears, right, in a safe space. And so it lessens that fear, right, that control that it has over you. Think of it like this. Batman doesn't just avoid bats, he becomes the bat. He embodies his fear, and by embodying it, he takes away its power.
Wow.
So in a way, he's almost constantly, the article kind of hints at this, that he's almost constantly engaging in a form of self-administered exposure therapy.
Wow.
Because he's choosing night after night to go out and face, kind of his demons head on.
So it's almost like this constant facing of the fear is what keeps him going.
Yeah.
He's not letting it control him, he's choosing to control it. And this whole idea of control, overcoming obstacles, it seems really connected to resilience, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
And the article really focuses on how important that is to his character.
And it's not just about being physically tough, right? The article makes this great point that resilience isn't something you're just born with.
Yeah.
It's not an inherent trait, it's a process.
Right.
A process of learning to cope and adapt and grow from difficult experiences.
So it's less about never getting knocked down.
Right.
And more about how you get back up.
Exactly.
And Batman, he definitely takes some hits, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
But he always gets back up, and I think that's what makes him so compelling.
Totally. And he finds a purpose in all of that, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about beating up bad guys. He's fighting for this better future. He wants to get rid of the kind of pain that he experienced.
Right.
Talk about turning a negative into a positive, right?
Yeah.
That sense of purpose fuels his resilience, right? So it allows him to face these impossible odds. It's really incredible.
It makes you wonder how much of that is Batman and how much of that is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Because they're like two sides of the same coin, right?
Totally.
And the article talks about his dual identity, saying that it kind of reflects the different roles that we all play in our all lives.
Absolutely. We all act differently depending on who we're with, the situations that we're in.
Right.
Right. But with Batman, it's amplified.
Yeah.
Because Bruce Wayne gives Batman access to all of these resources, information.
Right.
And then you have Batman who is, he's out there doing the things, the problems that require a more direct approach, we'll say.
Right. It's almost like he's compartmentalized these different parts of himself in order to achieve a greater purpose.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. And the article actually connects this to this idea of role conflict.
Oh, interesting.
So like imagine being a surgeon, right? But then also volunteering at an animal shelter.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those roles probably have very different demands, and finding that balance can be tricky.
Yeah. Like having different costumes for different parts of your life.
Right.
But with Batman, it's more than just wearing a different outfit, right?
Right.
He embodies those roles to navigate this complex world that he lives in, and that actually brings us to another interesting point that the article makes about Batman.
Okay.
This idea that he has this very strict moral code.
Right.
You know, the whole no-killing rule.
Right. It's like he lives in this world of crazy villains and like constant chaos.
Right.
But he still has this line that he won't cross.
He does.
And it's easy to think, just take out the Joker already.
Right.
But he never does.
He never does. And that's what's so interesting about his code.
Right.
It shows incredible self-control, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
He's surrounded by darkness, and he could easily, fight fire with fire, but he resists.
Totally. And it makes you think about all those times that we have to resist our own urges. Right. Maybe not, fighting supervillains.
Right.
But those moments when it'd be easy to take the easy way out or do the selfish thing.
Yeah.
That takes some serious inner strength.
It really does. And the article actually connects this to the psychological concept of self-regulation, which is essentially our ability to manage our thoughts, our emotions, or behaviors to reach our goals.
Right.
It's about being disciplined even when it's hard.
Right.
And for Batman, that self-control, that commitment to his code, it seems to be a huge part of what keeps him from becoming the very thing that he's fighting against.
It's like that line in the sand.
Yeah.
That commitment to something bigger than himself.
Right.
It's what keeps him grounded in all that chaos.
Exactly. And that's a really powerful takeaway for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's a reminder that real strength doesn't come from, just physical power, but also from internal strength. Yeah. It's about knowing who we are, what we believe in, and holding on to those values even when it's really, really tough.
Totally. And it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about striving to be better.
Exactly.
So as we kind of start to wrap up our deep dive into Batman's psychology here,
okay,
what are some of the big takeaways from the article? What can we learn from this caped crusader, even if we don't have a Batmobile?
Well, the article really stresses that we can actually cultivate these qualities in ourselves.
Okay.
We don't need a Bat costume or a butler named Alfred.
Right.
It's about taking inspiration from Batman's journey and finding ways to apply it to our own lives.
Right.
Which, let's be honest, is probably for the best. Can you imagine the traffic in Gotham if everybody had a Batmobile?
Gotham traffic is its own villain.
Exactly.
Seriously, how can we be a little more Batman in our everyday lives? I mean, besides perfecting the brooding stare, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the article talks about a few things, like, first, we need to face our fears.
Yeah.
Just like Batman confronting those bats.
Right.
And we don't have to become the things we fear, but maybe we can try to understand them a little better, right? Like chip away at the hold that they have on us.
Right. Like if public speaking terrifies you, maybe you start by just sharing your ideas in smaller groups and then kind of work your way up. It's like building that resilience muscle.
Exactly. And speaking of resilience, the article also talks about finding meaning in those tough times.
Yeah.
Just like Batman turning his pain into a purpose, right?
Yeah.
We all go through stuff, but it's almost like looking for the lesson in it all. The way to grow from those experiences.
It's not about pretending that the bad stuff didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's how we react to it.
Right.
Do we let it break us? Do we let it define us? Or do we use it as fuel to become stronger?
Okay, that's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And then finally, there's this whole idea of embracing our different roles, just like Batman juggling Bruce Wayne in the Batsuit.
Right.
We all wear different hats, and maybe it's okay to be multifaceted, right?
Yeah.
To let those different sides work together.
Absolutely. Find what works for you.
Right.
Batman's got his methods. We have ours.
Right.
The important thing is to be true to yourself. Figure out what we stand for, what we believe in, and hold on to that even when it's tough.
Find our own inner Batman, even if it doesn't involve cool gadgets and fighting crime.
Exactly. It's about facing our challenges head on with courage and integrity.
Yeah.
Those are qualities I think we could all aspire to.
So as we wrap things up here, I have one last question for you and for everybody listening.
Okay.
If you had to choose your own bat signal, what would it represent? What challenges would you face head on?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What's your call to action? What kind of hero will you choose to be?
Think about it, everyone.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Batman and the psychology of overcoming fear.
This was fun.
Until next time, stay curious.